No, it's okay. Yes, I can see your screen.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Yeah.
Avatar,
Let's start with the seven realities. Ashok ji, go ahead.
Avatar, Meher Baba ki Jai. The seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of various ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. 1. The only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. 2. The only real love is a love for this infinity God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. 3. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuit of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, even life itself, are sacrificed. 4. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of earthly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. 5. The only real knowledge is knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. 6. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned to is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Over to you, Karthik. Thank you.
Very good morning and Jai Baba to all of you. So I think if you recollect, I sent a message on the WhatsApp group and the Telegram group on. It's just as a reminder. So I don't know whether you actually read what I sent today. So what we're trying to do today is a retro of what we finished, the 48 sessions that we finished. We are in 49th session of God Speaks and Beams Together. Second, we will also read a specific artifact that I just came to know about, and I think it is very relevant. So it's worthy of extending our concluded series by just one more session. So also, this is a open and freewheeling discussion on everything that we covered in God Speaks and Beams. So we'll probably just do an overview and see the charts again to see if we discover anything and so on. Is that a good plan for today?
Okay.
That's good.
Excellent. So yeah, so let's start with a question. What what was Beams? How did Beams come into being? You may remember this. So Beams was actually a set of uh, essays put together in response to questions from the editorial team that was working on finalizing the manuscript that Baba had written for God Speaks. So if you remember, uh, Discovering and reading beams was a big aha for all of us. When we first read God Speaks, left a gap, we didn't know what was going on. We understood very, very high level, and we thought the language was very daunting, so on and so forth. And then I distinctly remember after reading Beams, it was so beautiful that things opened up. The language is very simple, and it kind of shines the light on aspects of God Speaks, which are slightly dense, dark, or difficult to understand. I shouldn't use dense and dark, but basically, concepts are more simply brought about and clarified in Beams. So now I want to go to an artifact. Like I said, it's from the glow, and in fact, it is the glow of fall of 2015, right? And if you see, it's on the cover. So the origin of beams from Meher Baba on the spiritual panorama. So that's the full title of the book, by the way, is Beams from Meher Baba on the Spiritual Panorama, right? So now let's go and see this article and actually read it together so that we try to decipher and maybe even correlate with the chapters and see if it makes sense. I hope we had this before, because we could actually read this first and then do chapter by chapter of beams, which would make it even more interesting. Okay, uh, uh, any- uh, let me get started by reading from here. Origin of beams from Meher Baba on the spiritual panorama. Ira Dietrich, president of Sufism Reoriented, digs deep into the archives of the organization to recreate for the very first time the origin of Meher Baba's beams published in 1958. God Speaks was 1956, if I remember correctly. The article starts Beams from Meher Baba on the Spiritual Panorama is a gem of a book that has rightly been called a supplement to God Speaks. It's fascinating, sparkling essays on a wide range of topics include information that appears nowhere else in Meher Baba's books. For example, in the chapter titled The Advancing Life Stream, Baba reveals new details of the creative process of evolution, explaining the role of hybrid species and the reasons for extinction. He details the role of a double faced form in the transition between species in the chapter titled Spiritual Jingoism. So, actually, let's just quickly go and see that chapter. Uh, Advancing Life Stream is 20. Yeah, so if you see, it directly jumps straight into the extinct species or missing links, and then talks about what is the reason for extinction and what happens between two kingdoms, I think. Right. So that's something we have highlighted. Unfortunately, yeah, that's just a very nice line. Okay, so I think that's the chapter that's being referred to there. Let's get back to the book. Baba reveals new details on the creative process of evolution, explaining the role of hybrid species and the reasons for extinction. He details the role of a double faced form in the transition between species. In the chapter titled Spiritual Jingoism, Baba gives a fresh perspective on false teachers and seekers, how they occur in the natural flow of the development of consciousness, and when they become a real hindrance to true growth. In the chapter titled Prayer as Inner Approach, Baba offers a beautiful explanation of what real prayer is. We just read this last weekend, if you remember. It was a very, very beautiful chapter. Other subjects are uniquely treated through these essays, such as Kundalini, miracles, obsession, the manner in which opposites work out in the laws of karma, and the interplay between souls. How did this remarkable volume come about? We owe this book to Murshida Ivy Dus, appointed by Meher Baba as the first Murshida of Sufism Reoriented. He chose her, along with her associate Dom Stevens, to edit God Speaks, which appeared in 1955. So it's 55, not 56. From these two roles as spiritual teacher and editor, Murshida Dus found herself in 1958 with a long list of unanswered questions, some raised during the editing of God Speaks, others arising from questions asked her by her students. Asked by her students. Okay, I think there's a typo there. These questions coalesced into two lists which Murshida Dus sent to Meher Baba in March 1958. So 55, the book gets published. March 1958, this is sent to Baba. The first list was titled God Speaks. In her book, How a Master Works, she recalls. Oh, that's a beautiful book, by the way. It's just stunning. I'm sure some of you have read it. After working on the editing of God Speaks with Don Stevens, a whole stream of questions flowed through my mind, which made me recall Hazrat Inayat Khan's statement that behind every question was its answer, and that behind every answer was another question. As Baba had commanded me to teach, I was also asked many questions which I did not know of myself, how to answer. So I sent over a whole list of them to Baba. That's the reference. Uh, Murshida Dus anticipated that a second edition of God Speaks would be needed with certain revisions and added explanations, and she hoped to lay some of the groundwork for the new edition by offering Baba these focused questions for his consideration, as he describes in the journal she kept at the time. The second list Murshida Dus sent was titled Questions, which she described in a letter to Mani as some questions that maybe Baba would care to discuss with us in Myrtle Beach. As it turned out, Baba had found the questions worthwhile, and in answer to these questions, Baba would dictate replies to Erich and Bhau, which Dr. C.D. Deshmukh would edit. Deshmukh had finished preparing the manuscript for the book Beams, and K.K. Ramakrishnan had been given it for typing before it was taken to America for publishing by Sufism Reoriented. Ramakrishnan had finished it late in the night of 13th May 1958. So March, questions received, manuscript finalized 13th May. Stitched it in a book form and put a pink cover around it. On May 15th, 1958, Baba and his companions left India on his last visit to the West, bringing the manuscript with him to Myrtle Beach. Murshida Dus was unaware of this development. In Myrtle Beach at the Sahavas that spring, Meher Baba, as reported in Murshida Dus's journal, gave me a manuscript explaining that before he came over, I had sent him a lot of questions. He had found them worthwhile and had called Dr. Deshmukh to come up and spend a month with him. Baba answered the questions such as he wished to Dr. Deshmukh by gesture. The good doctor transcribed the answers and then went over the manuscript with Baba. Baba said it was correct and I could do anything I wanted with it, print it or tear it out. Naturally, I shall try to publish it as soon as I can raise the money. It is called Beams from Meher Baba on the Spiritual Panorama, as requested by Baba. The title was given by Baba. Baba had worked with Deshmukh in this way for many years. Deshmukh edited the original 5-volume edition of the discourses. Deshmukh had been trained by Baba to do this work. Much as Eruch became Baba's voice, Deshmukh became his pen. Because Baba had said it was correct, Murshida Dus proceeded to arrange publication of the manuscript exactly as it was as quickly as possible. In June 1958, Murshida Dus circulated a letter presenting Beams as a Baba fundraising project for consideration of an informal group of friends in Baba as follows. This is the introduction to the book as written by Murshida Dus. Baba's new book, to be called Beams by Meher Baba on the Universal Spiritual Panorama, answering a fascinating array of questions based on God Speaks and other works, should be sent to Peter Popper Press, the press that printed life at its best, by July end in order to be ready in the fall. It will be about the size of life at its best, but will cost $1.50 per copy due to a tipped in photograph inserted on a special paper, plus a diagram devised by Baba, plus a new cover and jacket distinctly applicable to Baba. It will be necessary to race through contributions by Baba's lovers. So if you see the original book, it comes with a flap jacket, which has just the seven colors in the flap in the jacket, and the chart that's being referred to is the one diagram in the end. I'm sure all of us remember that, right? There is a diagram of the steps, the two-way steps. Where are they? It's the four journeys. Yeah, here it is. This is Baba's diagram, the diagram that's being referred to. Okay. Okay, let's get back. In July, Mushida wrote Adi, I hope to have Beams in the hands of the publisher by the 1st of August. Ned Foot has promised to lend me the money to get it printed. Beams from Meher Baba was published on December 5, 1958. March through December. I have reproduced the questions from Mushida Doose's two original lists that generated the book Beams, along with a list of questions Baba chose not to answer, which is interesting in itself. One can see that the questions are almost never related thematically. Indeed, they seem almost random. Often, they are only notes or talking points rather than complete sentences, though the gist is always clear. Nevertheless, Baba was able to weave them into a series of gem like essays. With the list in hand, we are able to trace the answers to each question crafted by Baba, see the context in which he placed it, and how faithful he often was to the text of the question. Below, I have reviewed the book with the original questions chapter by chapter. Baba answered a question or questions in every chapter but the first. It seems that he created the first chapter to serve as an overall context and framework for the essays that followed. In this chapter, in the broadest terms, he describes the whole process of creation. That's what Park calls the first pass. So there are three passes, multiple passes of the divine theme. The first pass is in the first chapter. Okay, so this is the Whim from the Beyond essay. The Whim from the Beyond. The Unitarian beyond is an indivisible and indescribable infinity. It seeks to know itself. It is of no use to ask why it does so. The first whim to know instantaneously implies a duality. The first aspect is that of infinite consciousness, and the second aspect is that of infinite unconsciousness. The two aspects have now descended into the primal duality, which can resolve itself only by fulfilling the entire game of duality. To reach out towards infinite consciousness, the infinite unconsciousness first has to fathom its own depths. It must first experience itself as infinitely finite and gradually evolve into limited and limiting consciousness. The process takes an infinitely long time. It seeks and ultimately finds the infinite consciousness through numberless steps, thus fulfilling the whim from the beyond. Having set the stage, Baba moves on to answer the questions he has found worthwhile. I've indicated the chapter title in bold, the question or questions in red, and the answer as given in beams below in regular text. I'm sorry about the quality of the scan, but I hope the colors are visible. So this is the red that he's referring to. That's the question. The answer is in regular text, and the title is the title of the essay, which is in bold. So the next one is fabric of the universe, and the questions related to that are spheres places? I'm sure we have also got this question. And are planes states of consciousness? Or what are spheres? Are they sort of lines of demarcation of states? Baba's answer, a selection of it is here. The fabric of the universe includes the spheres and the planes and the different bodies with which a human soul is endowed. The gross, subtle, and mental spheres are interpenetrating globes and have an existence in space. They can be regarded as places since they have an expansion in space. The planes, on the other hand, are both places and states. Though the state of a particular plane cannot be experienced unless one's consciousness first gets raised to it and begins to function from there. That's a quote from that essay. Please feel free to stop me anytime, and we can break away into this. Yeah,
No, I can. You can read it one second.
yeah, this is very beautiful. The fabric of the universe includes the spheres and the planes and the different bodies with which a human soul is endowed. The gross, subtle, and mental spheres are interpenetrating globes and have an existence in space. They can be regarded as places since they have an expansion in space. They can be regarded, the planes, on the other hand, are both places and states, though the state of a particular plane cannot be experienced unless one's consciousness first gets raised to it and begins to function from there. So both are locus, both have space, both have, both can be found, and one can be experienced only when you get to the particular level and
The,
raise your consciousness.
the gross, subtle, and mental spheres are interpenetrating globes and have an existence in space. So, as we know by now, we have uh, say all this together in the gross body. We have the subtle also and mental also. That's what he is referring to here, I think. Whereas the planes are, we traverse from plane to plane. So only when we reach that place, we can experience something of that. So that's what the point I get from here.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Jay Baba, Karthik, can you read the? I think that will have some answers to what Mamaji raised. 49 steps are mentioned in the discourses. Are seven planes? Are there seven in each plane?
Yeah, yeah. One second. Before that, just to answer or comment on Mamaji's comment. So I think there's uh, three things. So different bodies are the gross, subtle, and mental body. That is obviously there. We can touch, feel. Of course, at a level, it is illusion. It's part of the big nothing, but it is there, right? It's in space. uh, Baba is specifically talking about the gross, subtle, and mental spheres, which are worlds. And he's saying they are interpenetrating globes. Now, what's an interpenetrating globe? So, if you take a flat surface, I'm imagining, and please correct me or suggest any other ways of understanding this. If you take a flat surface and have a Venn diagram of three circles, you get three interpenetrating circles, right? A Venn diagram of three circles. Now, just see that and imagine that in 3D. And what is the points of concurrence, or what's the points of convergence between the globes? That's as you move from one sphere to the other. So that's the points of convergence, is what I'm imagining. And the second point is he explains the planes. So the as that exactly what Mamadi said, which is basically you get to realize that only when you get there, and that you get there with your change of consciousness. So experience unless one's consciousness first gets raised to it. So it's always there. Sixth plane is there today, seventh plane is there today, but you will get to that at that level when your consciousness gets raised to that. So it is a place, but it's a state of my consciousness when I get to that level of consciousness, and I will experience it. I hope that clarifies. Let's go to the next one, which is the 49 steps. So, do you remember the 49 steps in discourses, right? So, there are seven in each plane, but we'll understand that. That's been clarified by against the question. So 49 steps are mentioned in the discourses, are seven planes. I think it's are seven planes. Are there seven in each plane? So Baba says there are 49 steps in the ascent through the planes. The human mind delights in perceiving and creating symmetry and proportion everywhere. But this tendency should not be carried into the realm of facts. The 49 steps in the path are not evenly distributed within the seven planes. So it is not evenly distributed, but it just happens to be seven squares, seven square 49, but it's not evenly distributed. Next question. Bringing down musts. Adi started to explain to us in Myrtle Beach something about a point of fusion between the three bodies, which we were intensely interested to know about, but it never got finished. What is a universal body? Baba says the human soul has three bodies: gross, subtle, and mental. Though overlapping each other, they would still impel the soul in three psychic dimensions were there no point of interaction or fusion between them. So the three bodies will go in three directions, if not for the fusion. This contact of the intertwining or intertwining, yeah, this contact of the intertwining of the bodies invites action and interaction between the three bodies. The fusion point becomes the medium for effecting harmony between all three bodies. If the musts, god intoxicated souls, are to be brought down from the mental to the subtle or from the subtle to the gross, this has to be effected through the contact of intertwinement. This fusion point also brings all three bodies under the control of what is sometimes called the universal body, which is the seat of the universal mind. So there is a point which is the fusion point, which can be referred to as the universal body, and that is also the seat of the universal mind. Now, the universal mind is not your mind, it's not at the individual soul level, but it's at the macro level, the universal level. Okay, let's continue. Kundalini, this is not mentioned anywhere and is often brought up in questions. The higher bodies function either by impersonal and unconscious forces or by conscious forces. Kundalini is a latent power in the higher body. I think we have to make a cross reference in discourses to read Kundalini from beams when we go through meditation, because that's the other closest reference to Kundalini. But he does not go into this greater detail. This is just a note to myself, but let me reread. I'm rereading from the beginning. The higher bodies function either by impersonal and unconscious forces or by conscious forces. Kundalini is a latent power in the higher body. When awakened, it pierces through six chakras or functional centers and activates them. Without a master, awakening of the Kundalini cannot take anyone very far on the path. And such indiscriminate or premature awakening is fraught with dangers of self deception as well as misuse of powers. The Kundalini enables man consciously to cross the lower planes, and it ultimately merges into the universal cosmic power of which it is a part, and which also is at times described as Kundalini. Ordinarily, Kundalini is the name of the power latent in the individualized soul. The awakened Kundalini cannot by itself take anyone to the seventh plane. When awakened and directed under the guidance of some great yogi, it can give many rare experiences which have both advantages and disadvantages. The important point is that the awakened Kundalini is helpful only up to a certain degree, after which it cannot ensure further progress. It cannot dispense with the need for the grace of a perfect master. So, consistent with all of that, what we have read about Kundalini and uh, practices like that, where master's role is important and it can only take you so far. But my understanding or my, I mean, I don't even want to comment. I will refrain from commenting. Let me continue. Explain the
Baba,
Christian Trinity.
Baba,
Yeah, sure.
Yes, uh, Karthik, I have a
Yeah,
question. Uh,
sure.
when they refer to this, Kundalini, do they refer to the how to get out of the fourth plane? I don't know that. That's what. It might be a very free question, but that's what came to my mind.
Uh, the retrogression from, I mean, when you go back from the fourth plane, one of the reasons could be misuse of Kundalini linked powers. But Kundalini raises from zeroth plane to the sixth plane. It
Oh,
cannot take you to seventh plane.
oh, okay.
But if you misuse it in the fourth plane, yes, the same retrogression applies. That's my understanding. I mean, that's my understanding uh, based on what I just read and general also, general as well.
Yeah, and what when we read this, it that this is the thought which came to my mind.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's continue. Explain the Christian Trinity. It neither represents creator, sustainer, destroyer, concept like Vedanta, nor does it have the logical feminine, love side, connected with masculine, wisdom side, plus spirit. Isn't the Christian Trinity rather poorly interpreted? What is the Christian Trinity? The Christian Trinity, I believe, would be Father, Son, and the Spirit, right? No. Yeah, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, not Holy Ghost. Is that correct? I think so. Anyway, so they are trying to map it to either the sustainer, the creator, sustainer, destroyer, or try to see the feminine and the masculine. Let's see what Baba says in response. But as I'm reading this, I'm struggling to think why these questions were not actually introduced in the text, in the Beams text itself. But maybe there's a reason. Baba knows. Let's read the answer. Baba says the relation between cosmic power and the individualized soul is unique. In the case of a perfect soul, the relation has been described fairly adequately through the Christian idea of Trinity, which comprehends the three aspects of God: the Father, Creator and Preserver, Son, Savior and Redeemer, and the Holy Ghost, the Spirit of Truth or Grace. This concept of Trinity, three in one, grasps and expresses some important factors in the spiritual fabric of the universe. It should not be artificially equated with the Vedantic Trinity of the Creator, Preserver, and Destroyer, which reveals the fabric of the universe from a different point of view. All these are different ways of understanding the unitary and omnipotent power in the cosmos. The other place where this is handled by Baba is actually much earlier in Infinite Intelligence. So there he handles the Christian Trinity as well as, I think, the concept of the Sufi Khuda and Banda, right? There's no Trinity, but the Jivatma and Paramatma are Khuda and Banda. And I remember alongside that, there is a reference and discussion about the Christian Trinity in Infinite Intelligence. Right? Okay, let's continue. What are agents, especially invisible ones? Much of the work of the divine incarnation is often done through his agents. Carry on the duty entrusted to them by the incarnation. The agents may be on the gross plane or on the inner planes. If they do not have a gross body, they are invisible to ordinary people. They help persons in their ascent through the planes. Some agents fulfill the purpose of the divine incarnation unconsciously. They do not know consciously whence their impetus or inspiration comes. Other agents consciously receive instructions from the avatar and knowingly and voluntarily carry out these instructions. So, a question that's uh, in my head now is, when the advent is not there, are there agents? So, if you see here, very clearly, it's only divine incarnation. Incarnation is again referred here. And um, So it's only avatar and incarnation that's referred here. So does the perfect master also manage the universe with agents? Not clear here. We have to research that. Okay, what is the astral
I didn't
sheet?
get what you interpreted from the paragraph.
Okay,
We can
let me
try to.
repeat. Let me repeat that. So if you read this paragraph, it talks about agents doing the work, and the work is entrusted or directed or given as an impetus, to use Baba's word, by the incarnation. Incarnation clearly refers to avatar in body. So for non-advent period, which is the role, which is perfect master's period, are there agents, or agents appear only when there is a incarnation? I don't know. So if you read this, the agents may be on the gross plane if they do not have, okay, they help persons in their essence. Some agents fulfill. See, some agents fulfill the purpose of the divine. This is unconscious. Other agents, yeah. So all of them refer to incarnation and avatar alone. So that's my minor doubt. Okay. B. What is the astral sheet? Is a ghost always subtle, or can it be what is called by some people an astral envelope with impressions still automatically motivating it for a while? Before we read this, uh, astral world and astral sheet have very, very little reference available in Baba's literature. The only reference I can think of, I think, is in the last supplement in God Speaks, right? Literally, yeah, see, World of the Astral, 275. That's the only place where the word astral and astral body, the linkage with the mental body and the journey is discussed. Otherwise, Baba doesn't use the astral world at all. With that background, let's go and see what is the answer from Baba. As a rule, in his ascent to the eternal truth, an aspirant first becomes subtle conscious and then mental conscious. The subtle conscious soul generally does not come back to the gross world. This does not mean that the subtle conscious soul does not take a gross form or dwell in the gross world with his gross body. It means that the consciousness of the soul is no longer entangled with the gross form or the gross world, and that it is chiefly engrossed in the subtle world. The condition of the subtle conscious soul is an interesting contrast with the condition of ghosts. Ghosts are departed spirits who are too attached to the gross world. After dropping the physical body, they still desire to live in close contact with the gross. They continue to gravitate in the lower subtle and astral planes. Their astral sheath or envelope is activated by gross impressions and keeps them tied to the gross world for a long time. The ghosts, though severed from the gross body, gravitate to the gross world with its experiences owing to their actuating gross impressions. I think idea of ghost is very clear. Idea of astral, if everybody wants, we can read the last supplement really quickly. It's a brief one, I think. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yes, yes.
Let's just do that.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going there. Okay, I think I need a world of the astral. So that's what I remember too. Baba's dismissive about the word astral. I mean, he doesn't want to focus too much on that. There is no astral world as such. The astral world is not a portion of the subtle world. However, in between the gross and the subtle worlds, there are seven sheets which form the so-called world of the astral. And this serves as a link between these two worlds. Which two worlds? Gross and the subtle. A gross conscious soul may be said to have an astral body which links the gross with the subtle. The astral may be called the imprint of the subtle over the gross, which imprint is neither gross nor subtle. In sleep, in the ordinary dream state, one experiences the impressions of the gross world with the subtle body subconsciously and not with the astral body. All experience, I'll repeat that line, in sleep, in the ordinary dream state, one experiences the impressions of the gross world with the subtle body subconsciously and not with the astral body. All experiences in the world of the astral, experienced through the medium of the astral body, are as insignificant as dreams. After disembodiment, the soul experiences the world of the astral in the astral body. Disembodiment means the minor death, the dropping of the body. I mean, basically, you dying, right? The individualized soul experiences the world of the astral. I continue. This may be said to be the astral journey of the soul. When the soul gets embodied, the astral body is shed, and with the new gross body, it gets a fresh astral body. But as long as it does not get embodied, its subtle and mental bodies undergo the experiences of the state of heaven or hell through the medium of the astral body in accordance with the impressions that were accumulated while it was in an embodied state. So, person dies, gross body is obviously disconnected, subtle body exists, mental body exists, they are not going to go anywhere. He uses the astral body to go through the heaven and hell sequence. Moment he takes the next body, astral body goes away. Spiritual path begins only with the yeah.
But
Yeah, Mohammed.
the first sentence is a bit confusing in this paragraph.
Yes. Oh, in this paragraph? Okay.
Yes, yes.
After disembodiment, the soul experiences the world of the astral in the astral body. Correct.
Okay,
So,
next sentence.
this may be said to be the astral journey of the soul.
Okay, next.
When the soul gets embodied,
Ah,
when the soul gets embodied, that is the next birth, the astral body is shed. And with the new gross body, new baby, it gets a fresh astral body. But as long
why
as it
it
does
is
not
called
get,
as astral body here? It's a fresh astral body.
no, no. So it's like having when the new the subtle the the three bodies are there all the time, right? The mental body, the moment you get the gross body, alongside subtle body and the astral body continue to exist. I mean, mental body continue to exist for each of us. The astral body also exists, but it doesn't have any role till the gross body is brought. That's my reading from. That's my understanding from this.
No, no, no. In this sentence, when the soul
Yeah,
gets
soul gets
embodied,
embodied. Yeah,
the astral body is fed with its new gross body to get a fresh astral body. So,
yeah.
getting
That's a
that,
bit
that is
confusing.
it the birth of the new or something else?
This clearly is birth when the soul gets embodied. Because if you see it in continuation to the earlier two lines, it is after death, the new body, the individualized soul gets the next body. Then Baba says, astral body is shed. And with the new gross body, which again confirms that this is birth, it gets a fresh astral body.
So,
So,
where does it get
so
it from? From get a fresh astral body.
yeah, it's just, I mean, you can't ask where, okay? You ask Baba.
Okay, so, okay.
But as long as it does not get embodied, its
body.
subtle and mental bodies undergo the experiences of the state of heaven or hell through the medium of the astral body, in accordance with the impressions that were accumulated while it was in an embodied state. So, i- again, to summarize what I have understood, I am there today, I die tomorrow. When I die, my mental body and subtle body are still around. They are not going away anywhere. But my experiences of the heaven and hell state are done through the astral body.
Okay.
And the moment I get a new body as my next birth, a new astral body is supplied to me, but it has no role because only when I drop my body, the next birth, the astral body has a role. That's my understanding.
No, that's not so clear for me. Okay. Okay. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, but sadly, there's very little available on astral body by Baba. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's one reference in discourses. We'll try to see it. Let me read the last paragraph of this supplement. The spiritual path begins only with the involution of consciousness when the soul begins to experience the first plane of the subtle world and not when it just has access to the astral phenomenon from the gross world. At the stage when the soul experiences fully the first plane of the subtle world, the astral sheath body that linked the subtle with the gross is snapped for good. So here, Baba says, when you make the progress from the gross body to the gross world to the subtle world, the astral sheath that linked the subtle with the gross is snapped for good.
Yes. So
Now, astral sheath is the same as body, I think. Yeah, he's saying something.
this breaking, even though you are in the body, but you don't have the perception of the body. That is the subtle sphere. So those who are in the subtle sphere, subtle plane as such, they have a body, gross body, but they lose the contact with the gross body. So it's so epitomized here, it is a bit becoming difficult for us to understand because as we pass through the plane, we don't lose the gross embodied body, isn't it? So all those,
Yes, no, yes, we don't lose.
yeah, that's why. So it's only the awareness or the necessity or the attachment to the body is lost. So they live in their plane, but they are in the body. That's what I must experience. He is
Correct.
alive, he is living in the body, but he is not aware of the body.
So I remember doing this search before. So if you're seeing what I'm seeing now on screen, there's very little reference material available to astral. This can be ignored. It's more a semantic reference. Therefore, the aspirant only has to understand the value of such experiences as unusual and significant dreams, visions, astral journeys. So let's ignore that. There is a para on astral journeys in the place of the chapter is important. So the place of occultism in spiritual life. Okay. And very quickly, in the advancing, oops, uh, yeah. In the advancing stages leading to the beginning of the path, the aspirant becomes spiritually prepared for being entrusted with free use of the forces of the inner world of the astral bodies. Okay. So as he's advancing, he gets access to the astral body. He may then undertake astral journeys in this astral body, leaving the physical body in sleep or wakefulness. The astral journeys that are taken unconsciously are much less important than those undertaken with full consciousness and as a result of deliberate volition. This implies conscious use of the astral body. So this is more about astral journey, not about astral body. Please note. Conscious separation of the astral body from the outer vehicle of the gross body has its own value in making the soul feel its distinction from the gross body and in arriving at fuller control of the gross body. You can, at will, put on and take off the external gross body as if it were a cloak and use the astral body for experiencing the inner world of the astral and undertaking journeys through it if and when necessary. This is again not relevant to what we are reading. Okay. Now, the third one is just an expression, just a index reference, and it only says go and read God Speaks. For further information, see God Speaks. And then all the rest are cross references in the index. So keep these mysteries till you actually experience your astral body. And then come and tell us about it.
Okay.
Whoever,
You asked me to be a ghost and catch you to tell you.
that's the only way you can tell me after you experience the astral body. But I don't wish that state. I wish you well and quick progress to your journey to perfect master. 1 second. Okay, shall we continue?
Yes, yes.
Um, what is the astral sheet? Okay. What determines that one soul ends its journey as a majzub and another as a functioning kutub? Good question. After merger, the soul may remain immersed in the bliss of God realization and become a majzub or come down to the lower planes of duality for work without losing its realization of the unitary truth and become a perfect master. Whether a particular God realized soul becomes a majzub or a perfect master is a matter decided by the initial urge in creation. These varieties of terminal states are not subject to sanskaric or impressional determination. So, my wish and prayer for you is that the sanskaric determination has taken care of that for you. Just as a
But
comment. What was that?
yes, yes, possibly there is an answer for why I sort of had that idea of becoming a
Correct.
master.
So, let's go back to our master map, right? So, Majzub is okay. I don't want to confuse that, but I'll get to this later. Okay. Because here, the only question is about Majzub versus a Kutub. The only, yeah, maybe I'll explain it. So, uh, if you see the last column here on the right, here the concept is that of knowledge, power, and bliss, and the usage of it, right? So, in the in that the Majzub is consciously experiencing knowledge, power, bliss. So, if I'm reading here, but does not use it, right? Next one, up to perfect master. Perfect master is here, right? So up to perfect master, but above that is Salik Majzub, Paramahamsa Turiya. Paramahamsa, Jivan Mukta, and Salik A Akmal consciously experiences and enjoys, but he's not a Majzub. He's also conscious of illusion. He's able to deal with the world, but he does not use knowledge for bliss. The only person who can use is on the perfect master or the avatar level. So even the distinction that we are reading is there in the chart. That's all I wanted to know. Yeah. Next question. Mystery of creation. What is the Arabic corollary of Om point Is it Ishwar? I think we read this just yesterday, I mean, last weekend. The world of creation comes out of the eternal and infinite being of God through the creation point, which is referred to as Om. The sacred words Amin and Amen are frequent at the end of Muslim and Christian prayers. They both mean so be it. Coming from a man, it is a blessing or a wish, but coming from God, it is creation. Creation is God's Amin or Amen, an immediate and instantaneous fulfillment of his will into actuality. The Arabic word Amin comes from the root omn, which means safety or peace, and thus Amin may be regarded as an equivalent or at least akin of Om, which also is associated with peace. This is also linked to the Arabic or Quranic concept of kun fayakun. Kun fayakun is he thought and it happened. He just thought about it and it happened. So if you see here, instantaneous fulfillment of his will into actuality. The whole of creation is an instantaneous fulfillment of his will, God's will, into actuality. Okay, let's go to the next question. What about this is advancing life stream? The essay is called Advancing Life Stream. What about the chain of evolution where things become extinct? Only 23 whooping cranes are known to exist now. Blight killing off beautiful elms and other trees. I hear kangaroos, which are supposed to be high, are now being killed off by something. So the reference here is to natural extinction and dwindling of numbers of species. So Baba answers, the onward march of evolving consciousness from one species to another proceeds step by step. If a particular species is extinct, its spiritual purpose can be served by some other kindred species or by added births in some complementary species or by deficient and partial expressions through a slightly higher species. In short, evolution takes advantage of innumerable alternatives available to it. It can never be frustrated by minor gaps constituted by extinct species or missing limbs. He goes on, even if the kangaroos, whooping cranes, or any other species of plants or animals become extinct, it will neither arrest nor hamper the advancing life stream, nor will it frustrate the real purpose of evolution, which is to arrive at full consciousness. Barzakh terms. However, an interesting fact which needs special mention is that at the transition from one species to another species, there is for every transition a subspecies or a form which is double faced, barzakh, opposite directions, but also move in two opposite directions. With equal facility, it can retain its contact both with the species from which it is disengaging and with the new species into which it is becoming molded. This intermediate form has to be able to move backwards and forwards. It is absolutely necessary for transition from one species into another. So this is between in the evolutionary journey when you move from one species to another. Right now, why are there? Next question: why are there weeds? Do they correspond to primitive people in vegetable world? Is a stinging nettle higher or lower evolution? Baba says some species help and others hamper the forward movement of the advancing life stream. For example, weeds retard the development of higher forms of vegetables and plants. Their part in the vegetative life is comparable to that of primitive races in the civilized world, but their function is not merely negative. By competing with higher forms of vegetation, they invite in such higher forms a greater power for struggle for existence. Yet, the spiritual status of a species is not always to be determined by its usefulness to some other species. The stinging nettle is not necessarily lower in evolution just because it stings those men who touch it. To think so would be to take a purely anthropocentric view of creation, man centric view of creation. To view things in their right perspective, we have to see all forms, including human forms, as evolved for the fulfillment of the one eternal divine life. So, in this, Baba is closer to or supporting Darwin's view of survival of the fittest. So, in even the negative species, there is a role of motivating the positive species towards further evolution, broadly speaking, right? But again, he makes an important point that we should not see this as an anthropocentric view of evolution, which is what, by the way, no, actually, he did not do that, right? Mamaji is the expert. You can comment Mamaji. I don't think Darwin said it's anthropocentric. Did
No,
he?
no, no. There
Yeah,
is a
exactly.
movement. There are a lot of branches and say different uh, say, smaller branches keep moving, but
Correct.
one of them or a few of them reach a higher level. The others are in the process pushing these things. So it doesn't mean that they also aim to be on top, but the actual movement is on one single goal. So that goal is achieved by one of the branches. So that's all
Correct.
we'll have to take. It's a movement upwards always.
Mm.
So it is not one to hinder the other one, but each say branch thought that this is the best way to move ahead, and it made a movement, but it does not uh, reach the goal. So that's how we'll have to say. So the movement are the different branches which happen in species development is always a forward goal, forward movement with the idea of reaching the peak. But some fail because of the different aspects of genetic characteristics that they have.
Sure.
But the
Perfect.
primary aim is to move ahead. That is what has happened.
Correct. But my question was specific on the anthropocentric evolution. So, does the grass know that the end goal is human, according to Darwin? I don't think so. Correct. Whereas
No,
now
no,
we know through Baba.
no.
Yeah.
They want to achieve
Want to go
something
higher.
better
That's
than what they are at that place.
currently. Correct. Perfect.
So that is the movement. That is
Correct.
the goal is set with what they have to achieve
The
something
next level.
better than that. So that movement is there. But in that process, one branch has taken the lead to the ultimate. As Baba says, the human race is the ultimate achievement for full consciousness.
Hey, let's continue.
Yes.
What about man made hybrids, plants, animals? Do the new species and forms have to be gone through by all souls afterwards? And second question, interracial marriage. Sure, all of these thoughts have come to us as well. So if you take two plants and create a hybrid, are we playing with evolution? What happens when two races mix together in wedding? Right? So that's a question that's probably common. And Baba's answer is in its creative self fulfillment, the advancing life stream can and does forge new species such as natural or artificial hybrids in vegetable or animal kingdoms. Even man made hybrids in plants or animals can become. a medium for gathering fresh experiences in the ascending scale of evolution. But it is not compulsory for every soul to go through these hybrid forms. It is open to the soul to gather these experiences through the parent species from which the hybrids have sprung into existence. However, evolution is sometimes expedited through hybrid forms, and this would be applicable to the products of interracial marriages. So you're actually in a race. I mean, you're accelerating if you're doing interracial, if there is a product of an interracial marriage, because you probably have the sanskaric uh, benefit or baggage of two rather than single. Do plants have a language or some means of communication? Human beings communicate with each other and evolve together by an interchange of experiences. In the same way, intercommunication of some type is an important factor even in the world of plants and animals. Men can understand each other through spoken or written language and get an opportunity of sharing life with others. But animals also share life together despite the absence of such language. Even animals and plants have a language of their own, a mode of partial or rudimentary intercommunion. They share life with other forms and advance together. In fact, all forms and species live in a common world. They not only share life with forms of their own species, but also with forms of other species. Thus, birds, beasts, plants, and human beings, and all that life lives and breathes. I repeat, thus birds, beasts, plants, and human beings, and all that lives and breathes make their contribution to the unfolding life of each. Next question. Angels, do they have subtle bodies or forms of light? I thought we had to build a light body by becoming perfect. Do angels graduate into being archangels? Do angels evolve? Very, very interesting questions. Even, Baba says, even the evolution of angels and archangels, with all of their hierarchy, is not to be regarded as an exclusive stream in advancing life. They can incarnate among the human beings and become linked up with the human stream of life. They are also subject to the laws of cycles, and all that happens to them is under the control of the perfect masters. So even they are subject to the sanskaric linkages, and all of the rules that apply to other individualized souls can also work, I mean, can apply on them, and they are also under the control and perfect master manage them. Next question. We are told the subtle body is not developed until man form is reached. How do creatures exist in the astral or reincarnate in the earth without subtle bodies? Answer. In the subhuman creation, reincarnation of evolved consciousness takes place through the subtle matrix from which, at a later stage, a fully formed subtle body develops. Plants and animals do not have a fully developed subtle body, but the rudimentary subtle matrix gradually takes shape according to the stage of development achieved. This subtle matrix is the vehicle for the transmigration of subhuman consciousness from one species into others. It is also the medium in which the subhuman creatures live in the astral before taking a new gross form. So astral again is between forms. So the subtle matrix is used for subhuman forms and not a subtle body. Okay, next question. Can people like Da Vinci and Shakespeare reincarnate without their great mental brilliance? Answer. As a general rule, the life stream advances through opposites. For example, those men who have once appeared with mental brilliance in the gross world are sometimes devoid of that mental brilliance in a subsequent incarnation. Of course, the capacities of mental brilliance which they have once acquired are retained in the mental body and are in no way destroyed. But the intrinsic logic of the spiritual advancement of the soul may entail for it a period in which those capacities of mental brilliance are not accessible to it. The opposites of experience are equally necessary for the unfoldment of spiritual understanding. So the opposites in play are very, very clear in this answer. Retrograde incarnation. Dr. Ghani once mentioned it to me as happening to one who murders for lust. Is it true or only for misuse of powers? So specific question. Once a soul acquires the human form, the general rule is an onward march through human incarnations only. Retrograde incarnation is extremely rare in the advancing self fulfillment of the life stream. It sometimes results from flagrant misuse of occult powers. Retrograde incarnation is not a general rule, but an extremely rare exception. Continuation of the human form without reversion to any subhuman form is the normal occurrence. Even for gross violation of moral laws, a corrective is provided by the same soul having to go through the opposite of what he has done or experienced. For example, a person who murders another for lust might himself be murdered for lust, either in the same incarnation or in the next, and thus realize the nefariousness of his heinous crime. However, retrograde incarnation can take place in those exceptional circumstances where occult powers are used for the perpetration of heinous crimes. A soul which is invested with occult powers due to his station on a higher plane is expected to have them under full control. But if he grossly misuses them to being victim of his lower desires or ego projects, he invites upon himself the drastic penalty of having to revert back to the subhuman form and recommence his evolution from that point. This sort of thing can happen on the fourth plane unless there is a timely intervention by some higher beings. But retrogression of this type is very unusual. In that's clear. Avatar as first master. Next chapter. People ask, how did the first man, Brahma, become God realized, acquire God realization with no master to help? This is from the first chapter, one of the best chapters of um, uh, beings. Baba says, and with the arising of this initial urge, in brackets, of God to know himself, bracket close, there was an instantaneous manifestation of infinite consciousness as well as infinite unconsciousness as simultaneous resultants. Of these two seemingly opposite but complementary aspects, the infinite consciousness plays the role of the avatar or divine incarnation. The infinite unconsciousness finds its expression through an evolution which seeks to develop full consciousness through time processes. The first man to realize God as one indivisible and eternal truth was taken up into this realization by the eternal avataric infinite consciousness. The avatar is the first master of the first God realized soul. But in God realization, the full consciousness of the first master becomes fused with the eternally infinite consciousness of the avatar. Therefore, with the coming down of the first God realized man, the avatar himself descended and took an incarnation in his body. So, from the point of view of incarnation, the avatar is the same as the first master. This first master had no master in human form, but all subsequent masters have had masters in the human form to help them in truth realization. We've read this many times, but it's again a gem from this book. Okay, masters of the avatars, who were they? That's the question. Baba says, when the avatar takes an incarnation of the human form, he brings upon himself a veil. The veil with which the avatar descends in the human form is placed upon him by the five perfect masters who bring him down from his formless being. In the avatar periods, the five masters always put the veil upon the infinite consciousness of the avatar. The incarnation of the avatar does not take place unless it is precipitated by the five perfect masters. Clear? I think. So I continue. God Speaks First Edition, page 70, line 4 or 5, says the sixth planar, individualized soul in the sixth plane, has to have the direct touch of a perfect master. Does this mean physical touch of the hand, or is it used like we say we are touched by music or a story? A touch, Baba says, a touch in quotes of a master is necessary for God realization. However, the touch of a perfect master does not necessarily mean physical touch. When we say that we are touched by music or a poem or story, the touch has deeper significance. Far more truly is this so when it is a question of a spiritual touch. In the case of the master, this deeper spiritual touch is often transmitted through the physical touch. Again, very clear. Baba told me once, the next question. Baba told me once that the avatar does not take on karma for the world. Then, in what category are his accidents and suffering? And how can he get ill when we are taught illness is the result of karma? Answer from Baba. The avatar does not take upon himself the karma of the world, nor does he become bound by it, but he takes upon himself the suffering of the world, which is the result of its karma. I repeat, the avatar does not take upon himself the karma of the world, nor does he become bound by it, but he takes upon himself the suffering of the world, which is the result of its karma. His suffering for the world is vicarious. It does not entail entanglement with the karma of the world, but humanity finds its redemption from its karma through his vicarious sufferings, namely illness, humiliation, accidents, and the like. The befitting name is the compassionate one. For the compassion shown by taking on the suffering resulting from the karma of the world for the benefit of all the rest of the individualized souls. Okay, any thoughts or can we go to the next chapter?
Yes, yes, we can go.
Yeah, let's continue. Supervening orders in the spiritual panorama. This is the hierarchy of laws. That's the chapter. So the question is stigmata, telekinesis, flight of objects through air, like communion wafer, elongation, elevation, light. To Baba's response, we read it, I think, a few, maybe a month or so back. Occult phenomena like stigmata, telekinesis, affecting the flight of objects such as communion wafer through the air, elongation, elevation, etc., may amuse, astound, or overpower people, but they cannot bring about spiritual healing or uplift, which is the real thing that matters. They are just an illustration of the supersession, temporary suspension of ordinary and known laws of nature by the supernatural and unknown laws of the inner spheres. The curious might well occupy their minds with these things, but they are best relegated to the background as insignificant. Okay, diets, meat and vegetables. Would wrong eating or excesses shorten life? Proper eating lengthen it. Our days determined regardless of this and regardless of epidemics, explosions, etc. two, three ideas in that question. So let's see what Baba says. First is a simple question. Second, epidemics, and then both are handled together, I believe. The response was: let us take an example to illustrate the functioning of supervening orders in the spiritual panorama. The days of every incarnate soul in the gross world and what they bring are both definitely determined by the accumulated impressions of past lives. But this impressional determinism does not work itself out independently of or in defiance of ordinary causal laws. On the contrary, it works through causal laws. For example, wrong diet or gluttony or any other disregard for natural physiological laws will definitely affect the duration of the life term in the physical body. In the same way, intelligent use of known laws will affect happenings during the term of life. But whether or not there is going to be disregard of such laws on the part of a particular soul is itself impressionally determined. That is, it is dependent upon his gathered dispositions. Thus, physiological and other causal laws are subsumed by higher karmic laws and lend themselves as pliant fabric work for them. The law of karma supersedes and uses the laws of nature without violating them. Right? So there is a sequence of operation of the laws, and hence, if you like a diet and not like another diet, well, it's your gathered dispositions, and it is still very well operating under impressional determinism, neither making you superior nor inferior. So do your own thing. DYOD, do your own diet. Okay, let's continue. Are there people, in brackets, wandering Jew, Saint Germain, who keep their bodies for hundreds of successive years? Maybe we can add one more, Mahavar Baba, right? So, are there people who keep their bodies for hundreds of successive years? Baba says, there are some persons who, through their use of their supernatural powers, can keep their bodies alive for hundreds of years, although they are not necessarily spiritually advanced. End of answer. Next question. Does God forgive sins? Lord's Prayer, Baba's prayer of repentance, when all teachings say everything is karma. So, how does the law of karma operate when you seek for forgiveness? Good question. God forgives sins in the sense that he does not eternally damn anyone for his sins. He keeps the door of redemption eternally open. Through repeated sincere prayers, it is possible to effect an exit from the otherwise inexorable working out of the law of karma. The forgiveness asked from God evokes from him his inscrutable grace, which alone can give new direction to the inexorable karmic determination. So, now there is that presentation. Let me try to open that. Yeah. So, this is what we are saying. So, you cannot escape the lower laws, but then the divine grace can I mean, override any of the lower laws. And we're going to read about the last but one, miracles and miraculous phenomena, I think, in the next question, right? So this is what we created in response to um, this chapter. Okay, let's go back to the text. Baba's miracles. Don, Stevens, and I fight over this. Don repeats parrot wise that Baba does no miracles despite evidence. I say Baba does them, but to him, they are not miraculous, they are natural. Regarding Don's story of Baba resisting the urge to heal the little blind boy, I wonder why, when he did it often as Jesus. Here, again, the question of God's forgiveness enters. So there is a specific boy reference here. By the way, I kept ignoring the cross references, but they are all cross referenced at the end of the article. I mean, they're all referenced at the end of the article. Anyway, let's uh, see what Baba's answer to this is. Here, an interesting question is: does God work miracles in the narrower sense of operating the hidden laws of the inner spheres? The answer is God does everything, and at the same time, He does nothing. He leaves everything to the natural and supernatural forces prevalent in the spiritual panorama of the universe. Although God does nothing by way of small miracles, the entire universe which has emanated from Him is the miracle of miracles. So, having created the supreme miracle of the universe, God does not bother about performing further minor miracles within this universe, but leaves it to the reign of laws. However, this does not apply to the God man, who may, if he deems it to be fit and necessary, perform numberless miracles in the supervention of the normal working routine of the universe without attaching any special importance to them. What I see is Baba smartly sidestepped the question and still did not say, I performed it. Right? So he says, can be done and is done. That's it. So, but he has taken pains to maintain this particular line, so I'm not surprised. Hmm. Uh, I read the next question. I read of such things as a sorcerer who caused schools of porpoises to come from the open sea to shore for a native feast. Porpoises are not in the mental world and no subtle forms. How could they be reached? Again, a very specific question about a particular life form and an experience of a sorcery. The answer is, though mammals such as porpoises and other animals do not have a fully developed subtle body, there is in the subtle world an equivalent or counterpart of their gross form. The rudimentary subtle matrix, we just read about it earlier, which has yet to develop into a definite and functionally self sufficient subtle form, can still serve some purposes and become a medium for performance of miracles. Stories of sorcerers who caused schools of porpoises to come from the open sea to shore for a native feast are within the bounds of probability. Okay, so I think we probably, yeah, I think we can read another one. The equation of body and soul, we can finish. Yeah, that's the next chapter. Equation of body and soul. Can two souls use one body at the same time? The book Three Faces of Eve, some book, discusses three different psychological personalities in one person. Or are these only as obsessions? And can a person's nature of a previous incarnation break through? As a rule, we equate one body with one soul. In the frequent cases of obsessions, we have an example of one and the same physical body being used alternately by different souls. Some departed spirit or spirits can occasionally take possession of the gross body of an incarnate soul and try to use it for obtaining experiences of the gross world. When this happens too often, the general equation seriously disturbed. We have here We have here only one gross body, but many souls who are taking it in succession or alternation. However, cases presumed to be of the many souls, one body relationship frequently turn out to be instances of split personality, medical condition. They are not exceptions to the one body, one soul equations. In split personality, some disassociated nexus from the psyche of the same soul gets possession of its body and seeks separate and exclusive expression. It is not another soul or spirit, but another group of impressions, sanskaras, of the same soul or spirit. In split personality, each homogeneous nexus of the psyche takes possession of the body for some time to make room for other nexuses of this or previous incarnations. These other nexuses are qualitatively different and incapable and are incapable of being accommodated in the first nexus. So they seek alternate expressions instead of simultaneous adjustments. Last question for the day. Does the amount and number of souls in the world remain the same or more or less at all times? Do souls reincarnate in shifts like the day and night shift in factories? For instance, so many people insist the Atlanteans are coming in now. Atlanteans is a reference to people from Atlantis, which is, let's say, alien in alien territory. Alien as in non-Earth. Anyway, let's see Baba's response. When we say the number of souls in the universe remains infinite, this does not mean that it is constant. It remains the same only in the sense of remaining infinite and not in the sense of barring creation of new or fresh souls. The number of human conscious souls is not to be judged or arrived at by a census of living human bodies in the gross world at any one time. There are ever so many human conscious souls who may have just passed away or waiting to be born. Which groups of souls will incarnate in a specific period or cycle, and in what manner they are accommodated so as to allow scope for their evolution, are all matters governed by the masters who represent the divine will. The example of shifts working by day and night in factories is appropriate in this context. Indicate It indicates the many ways in which complex adjustments can be made to provide for the spiritual evolution of each and all. Even the exceptions to the one body, one soul equations are only part of adjustments which ultimately serve the divine will. Okay, so we'll stop here and pick it up next session.
The charged session,
What is that?
very charged session, too
Yeah,
much
it's
to absorb.
no, not just that. It feels so personal. It's like somebody's asking and Baba is answering each one. So it felt very, very here and now, and I liked that part very much. Yeah.
Jai Baba Karthik, which
Yeah.
issue of Glow International did this article get published?
This is fall of 2015. And I have to very
2015. Okay.
yeah, yeah. I have to thank Nageshwar Rao Garu, whom I happened to meet in Mehrabad, who pointed this
Okay.
out. So he said you should
Okay.
read this if you're reading God Speaks and Beams together. And then I reached out to again on his recommendation to somebody who had a copy, and then he sent me a scan.
Okay. So I hope you'll be posting it on the group or
Yeah, yeah, I'll do
how?
that. I will do that.
Yeah.
I will do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the Glow International has gone digital. So now we are
Completely,
going to
yes.
have only digital copies. In fact, just today
No,
I
India
subscribed
is
to.
no, but India
That's
continues to be
global.
physical.
Yeah.
No, I think India continues to be
No, no,
physical, if I
no,
remember.
no, no. I don't
Oh,
think like that.
everybody. Okay, okay,
In the
okay.
Yeah, it's going to be digital only.
Oh, okay.
So I just subscribed to that actually.
Oh,
today.
so by the way, Sunilji, did you confirm your May participation in the Glow the May event
Not
in New
not
Jersey?
yet. Not
I
yet.
think
Not yet.
I
But
think we are very late because it
yeah,
says sold out.
the website says the admissions
Sold
are
out. Yeah.
closed. Yeah,
Yes.
and
Yes.
if you want
Mm,
to remain on the waiting list, you can give your name.
You can apply. Yeah.
was
Yeah,
it?
So
What date is it? Just
May
for
12th, I think, if I remember. May middle of May.
1 minute. Let me tell you the exact date. 1 minute. I have it. I gave it to somebody. I think it is not middle. It is
29th May or
next.
something.
I gave it
Okay.
to somebody to suggest to go there. Yeah, it is 30th and 31st.
Oh, sorry.
May,
End of May.
end of May. Yeah. We mm, okay. Yeah. The
You
dependencies.
can.
We are in USA that time, hopefully, but
Oh,
I
then you
I
should.
can't.
You can.
I will try one more time. Mm.
Yeah, you have to send him a mail. Email.
Yeah, I'll send you Nosh. I'll send you Nausharwan's
Who's who's
email
going?
and
हमारे ग्रुप में से कौन जा रहा
कोई नहीं अभी तक. I mean, I
है
would
ना
love to,
हमारा
but
ग्रुप ही है.
uh,
है? संजय जी आप
I
जा रहे
have
हो?
that voucher on my scanned copy. I'm just posting it
Mm-hmm.
okay,
on the WhatsApp group of yeah, our
discussion.
yeah,
ठीक.
yeah,
Okay, so
reading
quickly,
group.
we went up to 14 in the footnote. So nothing very important. They are all book references. Our masterworks is Ivy Deuce's book, Lord Meher, the specific references. Then the fourth footnote is from her journal entry. Fifth is the explanation of Majzub, Kutub, Ishwar. And then eight is, okay, it's just an explanation. The Saint Germain. This was the Saint Germain who has lived for hundreds of years, was an occult figure of the 18th century who was believed to have lived for 500 years and also known as a wandering Jew. 12th, that's a Lord Meher reference, giving sight to the blind, right? But God saved him from doing so, which he was grateful. Okay. Number 13, book based on multiple personalities. Okay, this is basically the two souls. I mean, yeah, two souls using a body. That's the cross reference. And Atlanteans was the last one we encountered, are people from the lost continent of Atlantis. Okay, so with that, we can wrap up for the day and catch up next weekend. Everybody have a great week meanwhile and see you all soon.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Thank you.
Yeah, Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai Baba.